run the greenhouse.
What's happening to the greenhouse?
So the greenhouse is being temporarily closed for decontamination. There is asbestos in the mechanical room on the 14th and 13th floors, and inside the greenhouse there's tubing that is insulated with asbestos. So they're going to clean that out, and hopefully, if everything follows their projected timeline, we'll be back by winter 2025. To tell you where we are going, we're going to go to the 7th floor. We're still trying to figure out where and what location, but we will be somewhere sharing the CSU space near the People's Potato and trying to engage more with students. We're going to collaborate with CUTV, Fourth Space, and other entities on campus to project the greenhouse. Thank you to everyone that gave us their content and who came up for the call up, the media call up, all the participants. And yeah, so with that content, we're going to, share it there, try to give virtual workshops and such. Yeah, hopefully moving forward, like I said, we're gonna open the doors to the greenhouse to the public winter 2025 and be back in full throttle.
But you're concerned that the greenhouse may not reopen here.
So this is the one issue of the greenhouse is it needs to be protected. The greenhouse was built in 1966. So during that time, it was Sir George William campus, and they basically it was funded through the biology department. It was an academic entity, and then with the merger of Loyola and Sir George William, this became Concordia, and all the biology department moved to Loyola, and the Concordia students with the community members came together to keep this place afloat, because during that time, in the year 2000, they were going to demolish it. We have the student entities in this space, the certain working groups have been keeping this place afloat with our programming, having things come. It's all about the engagement with the students and bringing people to this space. The issue is when we are not here, and especially because we're a fee levy entity, it's important for us to engage with people in the space that they're actually engaging with. You can't really sell a space that's not here. So if we do go to our new location on the 7th floor, my fear is that new location will be very cozy, and it could be, let's say, in an imperfect world, let's say the construction may take longer than expected. New students who are coming in the year gap or even a 2-year gap will not know what the greenhouse actually is. Students who are graduating or, they're moving on. So how do you really support a fee levy? It's a lot harder when these new students, never felt it. So maybe they think it's just this place with plants on the 7th floor. So why am I paying for this? That's an easy sell for the people who don't like opting in for fee levies, which is a weird thing. But so this is something that I can foresee. Now, like I said, again, what we are communicating with the university is the importance of maintaining the space, how engaged we are with the student body. There's a lot of working groups such as Co-op Cult of Action, Hamidu Horticulture, Sankofa, who are student-led, student-run, and they have programming that benefits a lot of the food networks that Concordia deals with, whether it's CSAs, the People's Potato, the Hive. These are things that all start at some point in the greenhouse. So to close it for a year affects those as well. And these are actually entities that, if you want to put a value on it, is in the hundreds of thousands. So it's like, because without these entities, for example, the People's Potato, getting their seedlings, now they're going to have to find another place to get their seedlings to promote their soup kitchen for the students. And if you're an entity in the John Molson building or someone who's in the faculty who doesn't eat there, and your job is to maybe manage the project or do anything, like you don't really know, you don't really deal with those things. What you see is greenhouse has asbestos, close it at this date. If it takes longer, it takes longer. But what we see is, well, the longer it takes, the harder it is to tell people about the greenhouse. Even now when you guys are here, I couldn't even you guys at this point won't ever see the greenhouse as it was. At this point, all the plants are gone, either sold, which is good. Thank you, everyone who came and supported us. But like for people who've actually lived and worked in the space, um, it's not going to be the same. Some of these things have been here for over 10 years, and they have to be propagated and or sold, or some of them may not make it. Like some cannot be moved at all and may have to just be sacrificed. Which we're being compensated for. But then the question is, what is the cost? And that's the difference, I think, because and this has been a learning curve for even us. We are a not-for-profit entity, and we're dealing with capitalistic, not only capitalistic, but corporate world where there's bureaucracy. We have needs, but we have to express these needs in a way that that structure works, and it takes time, and some things that we need as people who work in the social structures, we're activists, right? We act and things happen, so we get to our goal a lot faster or within our power. Some things like this whole asbestos thing is out of our power. The government of Quebec is putting pressure on universities to be, safer for students to attend. Concordia has a lot of old buildings, so it's really hard to even push, like, because it's no one's fault. That's the thing. I can't even. It's not even fair for me to say, hey, school or Concordia, how come, you have asbestos? You build a building with asbestos. Well, that's what they were using. A lot of entities, a lot of student groups are being moved out of their rooms or offices and dealing with the same thing, the Z annex, just to say of one place. So that's the thing. I can't be like, it's not anyone's fault, but it's the responsibility, I think, of Concordia to know and to act on protecting the students' values, the values that they say they believe in, sustainability, maintaining a safe place for students to feel welcome, express themselves, and that's what the greenhouse represents. But you also have to, not just say, okay, but it's gone, and then you just have to deal with it. You can't just forget about it and say, we're going to use this time to deal with the problem for us. Like, no, you should deal with your problems. You allow these groups to be nurtured here and grow. So you have to nurture the seeds that you plant. When your plant becomes a seedling and transforms into a bigger plant, you say, oh, okay, it's going to do this thing. You say, these are, like, there's a lot of entities, like I said, Co-op, Code of Action, Sankofa, People's Potato, that benefit off this place. They're helping us by building temporary whole houses, which is fine at Loyola. But at the same time, this space also serves as a place for the photography department, for FAFSA students, for DASA students, for engineers to send us requests to rent space to do projects. And we don't charge. A lot of times they can apply for certain funding through the greenhouse. I was one of those students back in the day where I had a visiting project with hydroponics, did the same process, and fast forward to today, I work here. These are things that they should nurture, and to kill it is to cut into the educative work or engagements that the greenhouse has done. Because again, without a greenhouse, you can't really have the same hydroponic systems projects. You can't really test a solar panel in a hallway. you know, become obsolete. So all these, us asking for more from the community becomes obsolete. Now our fee levy becomes put more plants in the hallway. So, this is what I want to express to everyone. It's like that's my fear, and it can happen very fast. And it's no one's fault. It's just obvious, If you don't, our whole existence is based on student engagement. How do you use the space? We basically turned a old 1966 greenhouse, and not just me, the whole community, into a thriving park in the sky where you can throw, parties, community events, mental health talks. There's indigenous communities who've benefited from this space by having talks and meeting groups. All whole slew of marginalized communities all have gotten something from here, and it's like Concordia, because Concordia is we work in silos, and it's, like I said, no one's fault. If you're in John Molson, you are in John Molson. If you're in engineering, you're in engineering. If you're at Loyola, you're at Loyola. It's just like we have to just call it out. We have an issue with communication, and we are one of the best communication schools. We have so many ways, but a lot of students are forced to be like, if I'm here first year, I'm from another place or another country, I'm just trying to get to my second year without getting too many Fs or discontinuing? Are we allowing our students to even explore the school? A lot of the students that I engage with are like, I'm in my fourth year, I'm about to graduate, and now because I'm relaxing, I can find the greenhouse, but it's too late because I'm moving, you know? And I mean, I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but like I said, again, some students find it early. It's just, but the university could help bring us back. Say, hey, the greenhouse is part of the university. It's not just like this ID or this thing that just floats above. You know, there are, for example, no hard besides the paintings that we've made in the hallway or posters being hang up, any images of like where the greenhouse is. We've been struggling with that for years, but it's okay because we attract the fringe culture, the people who seek safe place to hang out, so it worked out for us. But in the end, it kind of bit us in the foot because the important people, and not to say important for this situation, didn't know about us. It's too late now, And sometimes I take that personally. It's like, I'm the social media engagement person. How come certain faculty members don't even know where the greenhouse is? How come they've never took a workshop here? Why? Are we not attractive to you? What do you need from us? How can you benefit that? And this is the more of the communication that I want to see in the future. And again, and this is back to your question about the fear, it's like, how do I even express that in a hallway if we don't get back as soon as possible? Because this is what we were trying to work on. We were trying to have more ways to have capstones up here, design projects up here, which we were doing in the past. There was a huge canopy project that we had up here. It was a massive event of an art student who did a residency here. And imagine, an art student did a residency in a greenhouse where she used plants and different little 3D printed artworks where they used recycled materials and involved a whole slew, a whole community. She created a community in a community. It was crazy. And all we did was just say, yeah, you can do your project here. And it became this whole thing. And this is what I'm saying. The Concordia needs to know what it's closing for a year, like I said. So my fear is 2 years is a lot. 2 years is more like it's kind of like dog years, It felt heavier. It's like, whoa, because people don't have time to try to find the greenhouse sometimes. And I've been there. If you're in engineering or something that's difficult, or if you have all students work, you have stress, it's not easy to climb 13 flights of stairs or the elevator even. There's only two in the H building. So like I said, I can't fault anyone. But it's just like if people don't know the true story, and I'm just one of many. I've been working here since 2015, but there's people who've been working here who've gone to other things that since 2000 when they took it over from the university, we're about to take it down. So there's other people that can also express how this space is important. And so for the future, there are going to be anyone who is as like into it as us. I don't know. Again, hallway, different from the greenhouse. I can't stress that enough.
How does the greenhouse moving not just impact students, but impact the greater Montreal community?
So the greenhouse used to have, hopefully in the future we'll have seedling sales, and these seedling sales were very important because they provided very affordable, sometimes free sources of seedlings that people put in their urban gardens or in community groups. There was an indigenous group that we partnered with, and we gave a huge amount of seedlings to. There's also, like I said, the local community as well. And historically, it has been the source during that time of year. Even during the pandemic, we did like a makeshift seedling sale where we picked a place in St. Henry because we weren't allowed to sell in the greenhouse. So we had to find a new space somewhere that was localized. We found a cafe that was down to partner with us. But a lot of people knew about that. It was a lot of coordination through the City Farm School at the time and the greenhouse and certain partners who wanted to kind of pitch in and sell their seedlings or houseplants. But it worked out, and a lot of people from the community came. And it's so funny. It's like, how did you guys find out about us? But that to say, a lot of the people who benefit from the seedling sale are normally older as well. People who've come here a lot earlier. Imagine, because if it was opened in the year 2000, they went to school here the year 2001, 2002, 2003. So they know of this, and they have kids, and they want to bring these plants to their families. Mm-hmm.
Will this be at risk of no longer existing after the move?
I'm not too sure. That's again because depending on each year, depending on who is involved in the program, that's what runs. So, for example, you have the Co-op Cult of Action, who runs a program that used to be held similarly to City Farm School. And the reason why I say that is because they engage with, microgreens teaching. They had a whole school program. City Farm School now is the City Herbal Apprenticeship Program, and they've kind of downsized a little bit, but they still function at Loyola. But at that time, they kind of worked together, and they would do like seedling sales. Students would learn how to kind of learn the commerce of gardening, like you from seed to having the plant grow to selling it. So these are all experiences that people who wanted to get in the industry would, learn and grow from. So depending on the people who were involved, those are different programs. Now, let's say, like I said, City Farm School changed their program. They do more herbs. City Co-op Cult of Action does microgreens and CSAs. But there was a point where there was none of these groups here. It was just kind of Hydroflora, who does houseplants. We're an in-house houseplant and rental service that we existed during our tenure here since 2015. I'm one of the founders of it. We have three other members as well. And essentially, and some of us are students here too. A lot of us were alumni. We all learned a lot of what we learned about plants from the greenhouse. But anyway, during that time, we would do house plants rentals, house plant sales, hydroponic workshops, teaching different people about giving internships, merging artwork with plants. You know, this used to be a cafe where we used to have students. We try to generate student jobs. So having a cafe, how do we generate attention to the greenhouse? Because you were essentially a resident in the space. So you had Hydroflora, and like I said, all the other working groups are basically working groups who take residency in the space. So we all try to benefit from having a greenhouse. What project can you run? How many things can you do? And during the pandemic, when it was closed, we all kind of came together to kind of like retrofit and basically expand the space. We all take care of the space together, dealing with pest control, dealing with climate control, cleaning up more. I would say after the pandemic, it was really like the second coming, because you had before the post-pandemic era had a lot of different groups, but because of a 2-year closure, things changed, But the differences between that closure and this closure is that closure was COVID. It was worldwide. We still had access to the space. We just couldn't share it with a lot of people at once. But then, this is different. This is like, no, everything has to be vacated. We're being pushed into a corner. And now, because we're being forced to separate, we're not working in close proximity as we used to. Our plan is to help and support the Loyola Gardens, go over there and bolster those projects as well, and hopefully return. But again, and not to like keep going back and forth, but it goes back to the space, the structure, maintaining, maybe having the school invest in this structure as is. I mean, I don't know if that's something they would want to do during the tuition hikes or whatever, but like this is such a key point to the community, for people to find food sources, education sources. We do a lot of workshops with different high schools, different elementary schools, different camps. The Rock and Roll Girls Club does many workshops up here, and it's affordable. A lot of times, depending on the situation, they're free. So these are things that we want to protect, And it's hard, it's hard to express this to people because sometimes I forget. It's like, yeah, because we do a lot of events, and it's not just the working groups that hold up the space. It's like what events take place in the space as well, because it's open to the public to rent the space to do, like I said, parties, visiting projects to take up maybe a couple of months at a time to run. So it's like this year has been, for example, more focused on the move, and it really downsized what we could have done, what we were planning on achieving. last semester, we had someone from the computation arts program. She hooked up a rig where she had pothos, and if you touch the pothos, you would see like different like the plant was hooked up to wires, and then by touching the leaf, it would like send a service to or sorry a signal to the computer, and it would make a little blurb on the little screen. You know, it was weird. It was weird when I saw it. I was like, oh, that's crazy. And I saw other students do something similar where they, you touch the plant, they had a screen set up, and it would like send a little signal, and you would see a little dupe. It would like move this little, the line, or make the circle, do like a little movement. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So you can like make art with moving the plants. It's hard to explain. Like I said, when you're a greenhouse person, you're like, oh man, like so many different things happen. And I'm like, you can't do that with pothos. And they do it. I'm like, oh, you could do that with pothos? Oh, it's cool. you know? So, yeah, yeah. And like I said, that's the importance of why I'm stressing about the community and the fact that, again, a hallway is not enough. Maybe it's temporary. No one can do anything about it. No one, like I said, I'm not trying to point the fingers, but putting us in a hallway for a year, putting us in a hallway for 2 years is crazy. 3 years is like, whoa, you know, that's all I have to say. And it can happen really fast. There's a lot of other things happening in the world.
What makes this greenhouse unique and special in comparison to the Westmount greenhouse and the
Verdun greenhouse.
Yeah.
So it's the only free greenhouse. Like you can come up here without paying any type of fee to entry. You don't have to have an appointment as long as you're here during our opening hours. Residency here, being a visiting project here is relatively easy. There's like again, the restaurant greenhouse, I have never even had to personally deal with it, but I've heard for a while it was closed, and when it was open, there's nowhere to sit down. It's just kind of like it's a greenhouse. You walk in, it's like a garden, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but like again, we're sitting down even now having this interview. This is a space that's multifunctional, multi-purpose. The Verdun greenhouses are a growing space, and they do projects. So it's very similar to the greenhouse. It's actually bigger than the greenhouse, the Concordia greenhouse. But again, it's not a space that is comfortable. You can't really throw a party in that type of greenhouse. You're not going to, I mean, you could do some events. Like I said, I never had to really even go that far to Verdun. I'm not saying Verdun is super far, but as a Concordia student, as an American who was like an international student who wanted to come here and learn about gardening like that, you could just do it like that. All you had to do was show up, Those places you have to go to, you have to maybe book something, maybe you have to pay for something. And there are paid events here as well, but there's a lot of free events, a lot of just word of mouth, a lot of just, a lot of students have asked me in the past, hey, how do I get involved? Do you need help with something? And I'll just be like, okay, go ahead. And you want to prune something? You want to propagate something? We have free volunteer workshops every Wednesday at 5. Anyone can come. In the beginning, I used to promote it a lot more, but the groups are too big, so we kind of just left it at word of mouth for a while. But that's the thing that's special. I don't think that, and it's known in Montreal that this is the only free one. A lot of, like I said, the different camps depend on this space because they can't really depend on the Verdun greenhouses because they can't really accommodate them because they have their own programs that they're running. And like I said, so the city is going to lose one, So now there's going to be, because any other greenhouse that it does exist, it's mostly for commercial use. Like Lufa Farms, for example, is something that you can tour, but you can't, go up there and make a mess. Up here you can make a mess, and then we just ask you to clean it up, So that's the true loss. How are you going to engage youth in agriculture at this capacity for free? I don't think it will ever exist again.
What is the importance of having greenhouses within our community?
Well, I believe, especially in a community that doesn't have access to green, so Montreal has a ton of green space, but what it doesn't have in the wintertime is a lot of green space. So all that park space that you normally would do certain things. I mean, you can ski, you can do a lot of other things at Montreal and do stuff. But what's important is you have a space where people can still garden and have express their connection with nature. And a lot of people don't have dwellings. A lot of people that can accommodate that. You don't all have solariums. You don't have big balconies. Some of us don't have places that face the perfect, direction to get the best sun. So this is it. And cities around the world like New York, Detroit, have all used having rooftop gardens as a way to get away from urbanism. Like when you have, an excess of dealing with loud noises or smelling concrete all the time. Sometimes you need to have dirty fingers, especially if you live a very corporate lifestyle. It's a way to leave yourself. Actually, gave a workshop to the Concordia Treasury Department, and they enjoyed themselves. They actually didn't know, a lot of them been here for 10 years, didn't know the greenhouse existed. Some of them were feeding the fish, they were rolling up their sleeves, and I saw the joy. They were like, wow, I'm digging in the dirt. Some were like, oh, I didn't come prepared dressed for this, because it was, during their shift, but even they got a benefit out of it, And once that's gone, I don't know, I mean, maybe certain things at Palace de Congrès, because they also have a rooftop garden, you can still look into something over there. But the whole point of having, when you have society closer to nature, it's agricultural therapy. It's a therapeutic. You need to know how things live that aren't necessarily human, or necessarily a mammal either. You know what I mean? It's like, it brings you a sense of zen. It's also more healthier for you, and it cleans the air, obviously. But it's I feel like, especially in the wintertime when everything's gray, because for me, this is the only, I'm not gonna lie, the only reason why I'm still in Canada is because of the Concordia greenhouse. Seeing tropical things, it's minus 40 outside or 14, whatever, and you have a place where it's actually warm and cozy. You can relax and still see sun and get some vitamin D. You know, it's it's a hub. It's a but again, it's structurally, there's like I said, with all that niceness to say, it needs to be changed, needs to be cleaned, needs to be maintained, and the question always is how can we make this valuable for the university so they can invest in the space and it's not a hindrance to them. And this is something, as you mature, because I was a student, but then now I started working here and learning about the structure of the university. Is like, there's a lot. It's expensive. It was built in the '60s. There's a lot to repair. There's a lot of issues that it creates. We want to still make this safe, so we do have to get rid of the asbestos. There's not anyone, like I said, it's not anyone's fault. But financially, when is the breaking point? So, and everything kind of happens at once. You have Murphy's Law. you know, and that's, like I said, even for myself, I wish I had the more skills in the outside of, or maybe I'm learning these skills through these processes of how to maybe better engage with the university as a communications person. But then again, going forward, whomever does take on this role in the future, because this is overall a legacy project. You're not supposed to have this job forever. Can they also take on that role and understand what this place is, especially if it's closed longer than the year, It's hard to really say, hey, does anyone really understand that you could do all these things, Or these are things that we were offering, But we're collecting data. That's something that we have. We're collecting data. We're building a story. We've collected a lot of content to work with the university to express the need of keeping this place here. Sorry for a lot of doom and gloom, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm too close. I'm way too close to it, and I gotta use that asterisk. I've been here for a long time, so a lot of what I'm saying is coming from an emotional place. And but like I said, they're helping us as much as they can. And the only thing I want to express to the community is this is a place that needs to be protected. And it's going to take everyone's help, whether they understand whatever skills they have, whether it is, coming up with financing, fundraising, knowing about greenhouses, anything. Honestly, it's community. Any skills, just being part of the community. You can join the board. We're gonna have a AGM coming up in the future, so you can definitely reach out to us, join our board. You know, it's just hard because you can't really start campaigning for your new year, a new AGM when you're still moving. We don't even know where we're gonna be. So bear with us. We're trying to figure out what we're gonna do, what we're gonna do. But we're on it, and yeah. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned off camera that some people would come in and they mentioned that they had like a decade's connection with this place. Could you explain that to me?
So it's so common for me anyway. So actually, a funny story is during the plant sale, one of the last people here, his name is Jonathan. He was taking pictures of one of the prickly pears, and I was like, "This is so interesting that this guy's doing that." And I looked at him and was like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he was like, "Oh, not really." I was like, "Remember you gave me the hydroponic system?" And he was like, "Oh, that's you." And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And it's crazy because it's he told me all the stories about what he planted, and he said, "Oh, the prickly pear, the giant prickly pear that's been here for a while." He said he got it from like one little like sliver, like one little like I don't know, a wedge of a prickly pear, and it became this huge thing. And when he gave me the hydroponic system, he was kind of like disappointed with it. And then he's like, "You're still here." It was such a big like homecoming in a way, because he's heard that it was closing. He even before we left, he got a couple like banana cuttings from the banana that he gave me. He's like, "I can't believe you kept this alive for that long." And I'm like, "Yeah, and it's actually so common for me. I've given workshops, and someone in the crowd will be like, "Hey, whatever happened to the dehumidifier?" And I'm like, "The dehumidifier? Oh, like one of the legs broke, so we had to, take it apart and donate it to Sucker." And he's like, "Oh, it's a shame. I built that." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, who are you?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I was here back in blah, blah, blah in 2009 and did this and na, na, na." And I'm like, "What?" It's crazy. Often, like at least once a year, or not twice a year. There was one guy named, I think, Francois. He donated a drill or a saw, and he was looking for it in the back in the toolbox. And the toolbox is a mishmash of whatever it's back there because people donate stuff. And he was like, "Oh, I donated this like 8 years ago. Oh, you don't keep an inventory?" And I'm like, "I have no idea, man. I do social media. I don't know." But this is what I'm saying. There's a huge impact in people who've given us stuff. So you have no idea. You're using a saw to cut some wood to build like a raised bed, and you're like, "Oh, this saw was donated years ago." And that guy's like, I mean, I don't know if he cares enough, or maybe but he's looking for his saw. He's like, "Oh, maybe he needed it that day." But it's just cool to know, of like just how far-reaching it is, and we're all standing on the shoulders of somebody. Mm-hmm.